Hey Rockstars, I'm JB, expert salesperson and master presenter.
I'm the doctor, psychologist, and behavioral expert.
This is the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab podcast.
We're high-performance coaches that help service-based professionals and entrepreneurs take their skills to the next level.
70% of entrepreneurs fail, which is why every week we have real talk with real entrepreneurs to help ensure you are not one of them.
We're also the inventors of the Be Rich mindset,
where we rise to mastery,
inspire greatness,
celebrate knowledge,
and help others along the way.
So join us in the lab.
And now, on to the show.
What's up, Rockstars? Welcome back to the lab. I'm JB.
I'm the doctor.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the lab, where we have real talk with real professionals, even if it just happens to be this guy and myself. If you're returning and you're a viewer or listener, thank you again for joining us. I'm sure you've already liked, subscribed, and followed. You know I ask you every single week, but if you haven't yet, go ahead and do so. Our whole goal here is to give you great insight and great impact so you and your business can level up, and we'd love to do that for more people. We rely on you. We could use your help, so thank you ahead of time.
Push the buttons.
You always have so much to add.
Very direct to the point. The button, push it. So it says subscribe. There's the one with the little thumbs up, not the thumbs down one. I know I'm watching some of you. Thumbs up button. We want that. Definitely like to subscribe. That little one with the 5 stars. Fan of that one too.
Yeah, we are. And most importantly, share. Along with everything else.
Sharing
together.
Is caring.
Share. Right? There we go. See, that's something you can add. I like that. So we can all say yes to this, right? Yes. Everybody could say yes. If you see me, raise your hands up. People in the car, like, I can't raise my hand up. I get it. It's okay. But yeah, go ahead and share.
Like, why are you changing lanes?
I'm excited about our conversation today, Doc. I want to talk about no.
I've heard it a lot.
No. I want to talk about no because I think there's a lot of people out there that struggle with saying no and have a challenge with it. And I know myself included, it can be a difficult thing to do. I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to not step up when I have the opportunity to step up. And I like to people please, generally speaking. I think a lot of us do. And it's hard, right? Saying no can be really hard. Do you have trouble saying no? I feel like you're not the type of guy who has trouble saying no.
No, I have no problem. Now, again, my favorite word, what? Depends on the situation. A lot of the times, as someone who likes to help people, I don't like to disappoint either. So, my default is sure. Most times, I have gotten better over the years at realizing that my time is valuable and that not all yeses need to be happening, and the no's are sometimes very valuable. But that's taken some time to get there, practice, and a lot of reframing. That no could be good also.
Yeah, and most people, is it a disappointment thing, you think, for most people? I know you're going to say it depends, but is there more often than not a primary reason why people struggle with saying no?
I think especially if it's an ask, right? And if someone they care about or like, they feel this obligation. So yeah, you don't want to disappoint them. A lot of the times, surprisingly enough, it's this also miscalculation of how much time we have to be able to do things. So a lot of times it comes from, we want to do things for people and we don't want to disappoint. But also a lot of times we think we can do these things. And we just don't really have the concept of how much time we've already allotted for things. And now we're like, I can't really do that. Now it's too late.
That's that optimism bias, right? That's this idea that we have more confidence in our ability to get things done than we really ought to. And this is a pretty universal thing. I'm fairly sure where most of us just overwhelmingly overestimate our abilities. We're like, oh yeah, I can do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, you can't.
I think we've had that conversation around when we were talking about to-do lists, right? Like you write the super long list. I'll get all this stuff done today. Nope. No. That's why most of the new to-do list apps and even things like Trello or Asana have that little ability to move it to the next day because they know you're going to overachieve on what kind of goals you're going to set for that day.
Yeah. Something to be said about stretching, right? So I mean, I'm sure there's some good reason for optimism bias. Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason that we do it. That's probably a healthy reason. Uh, but I want to get back to this reframing you brought up with no. When we're struggling and we feel like we ought to say no, what can we do to get a little better at it? And is reframing the answer?
Well, taking the time to ask yourself if your response coming next is a response or a reaction, right? A lot of the times, can you do this? Yes. It's just like that reaction. It's not actually a response. It's just what we're pre-programmed to say. So yes, a little bit of the intentionality of a response is helpful here because then you can actually think about it. Fun one. Let me get back to you. I would like to, but I have to check my schedule. Like there's a lot of ways that we have to retrain ourselves on how to answer that question so we don't just default to what we were trying to do.
Well, and
that was
what
the
you
exact question or not, but that was where my answer went.
no, I appreciate it because it prompted what was going to be a little bit of a follow up for me, where I could say there's some pressure to get a response right away from people. People want, if it's an ask, the expectation is you're going to be able to answer. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's a self constructed pressure that I put on myself and other people put on themselves. But I think it does exist. Most people are used to quick responses. And so it can be hard to do something like, well, let me think about that. And I'm not sure that people always respect that. It's easy enough to say, hey, I'm going to put some thought into that or let me get back to you on it. But how often have we seen people then push?
Absolutely. I mean, we're conditioned to immediacy now, right? We have this society we've built, especially in the business world, of immediate response. Someone sends you a text, you're supposed to respond immediately. If someone sends you an email, you're supposed to respond immediately. But this is self-created, and we talked about it in some previous podcasts about not needing to actually do that. Right? There's a lot of talk about successful people check their email once a day, and they control when they respond to these things. You might not be able to do that, but you still can control that response, and you're just conditioning that person to now being able to be okay with you taking a second to respond. Anytime we do something that's out of the norm, people are going to try to push back against that, right? I think we had a good podcast talking about change not too long ago, or coming up, depending on when you're listening. But that is the thing, is we've conditioned ourselves and others on how they expect it to us. The beauty of that is we can recondition them to however we would like to do it. So if you were someone who wants to practice at getting better at delaying that response until you can give a more accurate answer, you do that. And then guess what? They'll adjust because that's what they'll expect from you going forward.
And there is something that I feel pretty firmly about that you could say here to level set with people when you are trying to defer, so you can make a good decision instead of rushing to respond. If you do ask for time and somebody does go ahead and starts pressuring you and they start kind of trying to sell you on this, there's something to be said about turning around and just saying, hey, if I gave you an answer right now that I could, right? If I gave you a yes right now that I could, and then I ended up not being able to, would you be more disappointed in me than if I just told you no? And that's why I need some time to think through this, right? So you just kind of start to set the expectation with somebody like, what I'm trying to do here is it's in consideration of you, right? I'm not just answering. I'm going to think about this to make sure that I can follow through and hold to my word if you're asking me for something. So if I'm going to say yes, it's because I'm actually going to do it and I'm going to be able to do it. I'm not just going to say yes and then fail to do it, which would be the worst of the two options. I'd better off to say no up front than say yes and be unable to hold to what you said you were going to do.
Absolutely, because then you're not disappointing. And then the flip side is if you are able to do it later, you're changing it to a positive, right? So they're not going to be begrudging you for doing something positive afterwards. Like, you said no, but now you're saying yes. How dare you? No, that'd be like, oh yeah, you're saying yes now. Great. And to add to that a little bit too, I think I want to add on about the idea of saying no and having to have a reasoning and an excuse behind it. and we feel that obligation. If I'm saying no, then I kind of come up with a reason. And you're not obligated to. And I think this is where people put a lot of their pressure on themselves for saying no, is because then they feel like they need to give us some validation behind it. And that's where they put themselves
Guilty.
in this position, because if I have to validate it now, maybe I just don't want to do it and I don't want to tell them that. So I have to come create some answer to why I'm saying no. And then I'm putting myself in a position where I'm lying, or I'm not being totally honest, or I have to hurt their feelings. So a lot of the times we do that to ourselves. So that prevents us from saying no. I'm giving you a pass here. You don't need to have a reason. It's your reason is no. That's all you need. That takes a little practice to get past that, but just know it is okay to not have to qualify any kind of answer.
And for those of us listening or viewing that are hearing this and going, "Oh my gosh, I could never do that." Well, the doc just said it. It's practice, right? We're perfectly capable of saying no without validating the no, right? There's no onus on us to provide validation or a reason behind it, right? We can just say no, and the best way to do that is to just practice saying no and leaving it at that.
Yeah, and I mean, no's are good sometimes too. I think we look at it always as a negative, but giving that person that answer, and if you know it's not accurate, then it gives them the opportunity to move on and try to get help somewhere else or figure out other solutions. That also could be a way that you can help if you have to say no and you do have some a little bit of guilt. Maybe you can help problem solve for them to find another solution. Um, so there's a lot of ways around this. No's aren't always good, not always bad. It's really dependent on the situation, like most things. But don't be afraid of a no.
And I do feel like a little bit that yeses are celebrated, right? You know, that you get movies that are all about saying yes. You know, whether it's the parents have to say yes to the kids, or Yes Man with Jim Carrey, whatever these movies are, where it's all about yes and how amazing it is, the opportunities that are out there when you say yes. But just remember, for everything that you say yes to, you eliminate the space to be able to say yes to something else. So we only have so much time and energy and focus in our lives. So when we are saying yes, we just need to make sure we're saying yes to the right things for our own benefit and everybody else's.
Absolutely. So I would love to hear some stories from our folks, listeners, on when no's are good, when they're bad, when, in their own personal experience with no's. How do you feel about saying no to others? Do you get nervous with it? I know a lot of the girls I've asked out on dates say no, no problem. They have no issues with it. So I'm used to hearing it. But I've also heard some yeses, and those have been good. So tell me in the comments below, slide into our DMs. Let us know what you think about no and how often you've had to say it to people like me.
Man, if you're getting all these no's on these dates, maybe you're asking the wrong questions, brother. I'll just
Sometimes it's just hi. No.
No, I have a boyfriend. It would be what you hear a lot. I was just asking if you knew the way to the restaurant, but sure, okay. Exactly. Oh, right, whatever, man. Don't bust my balls too bad. All right. So no, it's an interesting conversation. I would love to hear people's thoughts on this. If you got an opinion, if you've run into a circumstance, or you've got a story where saying no has actually helped you or benefited you, love to hear about it.
Yes.
You are just loquacious.
Very direct to the point. I was just giving no follow response.
He's
to that.
Garrulous guy. He's talkative.
All right, that's about enough of you today. I'm done.
Okay.
See, that was very direct to the point.
You've got
Stated my purpose.
I think I'm done too. Hey, everybody, if you're listening, watching, you haven't subscribed, followed yet, we said it up front. We're going to say it again. We always like to close the loop. Go ahead and do that for us. We'd really appreciate it. And thank you ahead of time. If you didn't know, we've got Evolve Live networking going on a pretty regular basis, depending on when this comes out. It may be before or after our October 27th event. Don't worry if it's after. We've got another one coming. I promise you, just keep an eye on our website or any of our social media. You'll find information about that. We also happen to have a few freebies for you here as well. We have the 6 methods to make sure your business does not fail and your competition does, which is nothing against your competition. We just don't want to see you fail. So this includes actionable items on how you can make sure that it's not your business failing. It's not just IDing what these are. It's how to make sure it's not you. We also have masterclass, 7-minute masterclass. This is pretty cool. 7-minute masterclass, not an hour of your time, not 30 minutes of your time, 7 minutes of your time. The RIP method to 2x your time. Why? Because we respect your time. We're all about respect here. We respect your time. We want you to get it back. You can start this process tonight. It's a free masterclass. Check it out.
And you don't have to say no to any of those things if you don't want to. We truly appreciate that. Other things that you don't have to say no to, you can say yes, is on how to get in contact with us. You can find us at our website, jbandthedoctor.com, on all social media at jbandthedoctor. Obviously, you can hear us weekly on our podcast, which is also on YouTube. So if you want to see these smiling faces that you can't say no to, that's where you would find us. And the weekly blog that accompanies us can be found at jbandthedoctor.com/blog. Make it real simple for you.
Nicely said, Doc. That's about as much words as I've gotten out of you all day. That's pretty good, man.
No.
All right. I'm JB. I'm out.
Peace out, yo.